All right, so I'm outside of a 2019 Honda Civic Sport. So this is the newest trim level of the Honda Civic. From the outside, you can see it's a pretty sharp looking car. It's got some nice wheels. It's 1 inch larger wheels, black grille, just a sportier look and a spoiler on the back of the vehicle, which I'll show you here in just a second. But this way you can get a general idea for kind of the profile of the car. So let's move around to the back of the car and I'll start you there. And while we're moving around, I can shoot the smoked rims for you a little bit better. So from the back of the car, as I mentioned, it does have a deck lid spoiler on it. As far as walking up to the car, I can quick release it right here. So if I have the key in my pocket, I've got a quick release and you can see where the backup camera is right here for you. Now, as far as the trunk space, I do have carpeted floor mats that come standard on the car. So I'm gonna throw those out. Show you your spare here real quick. If I pull this piece up, you can see underneath this piece of styrofoam, I do have a full diameter spare, meaning full height, just not full width as far as that goes. So that's what's going from that standpoint. I do have a 60-40 split in the back that I can throw down. So if I pull here and pull here, it'll allow me to lay both down, or I could lay one separate of each other. So that's the trunk of this Civic. In the back, I will point out the exhaust because it is pretty cool looking, and what I've heard referred to is an HDMI exhaust because it very much does resemble that. So it's a cool look, I like it. All right, so moving around to the passenger side door. Is this unlocked? Oh, perfectly, I unlocked it. First thing I'll point out is you can see that it is a cloth and leather mix. So cloth along the sides and the center, and then, cloth in the center, and then along the sides, you've embezzled with leather. So it's a hybrid mix, just like my Accord Sport is. It only comes in a black interior, so just something to keep in mind if you're looking at this particular trim level. Understand it doesn't come in other colors as far as the interior of the car. Exterior does, just not interior. So this way you can get a kind of a look of what it looks like. It's a good look. So that's what's going on from that standpoint. I'll pause for this on a second. That way, if you wanted to look at any details, you absolutely can. So let me get in here. And that way, if you wanted to pause and get a feel for what's on there, hopefully that answered your question. Now, it does have keyless access, so I can walk up and put my hand on the door handle. It'll automatically unlock. When I'm walking away, I can press the lock button right here and lock the doors also. Now, while I'm talking about keyless access and things of that, I do want to mention the car does have a remote start also. To use it, I would press my finger on the lock button and then press and hold the remote start button, which is this round circle right here, for a couple seconds. That'll crank it up and run for 10 minutes. If I do that same sequence again while it's running, it can run for a total of 20. Now, if I start it up and realize I'm going to get stuck at work or wherever I'm at and I don't want to let it keep running, press the unlock button and then the remote start button. That would turn it back off. So that's just how that works on the key, right? So I will point out it's a manual seat adjustment here. So I have a bar underneath to slide left and right, and then I can raise and lower the seat using this paddle, and then this back paddle will adjust the back adjustment on the car, or excuse me, on the seat. So that's what's going on from this standpoint. If you're looking for a powered seat, you need to move up one model to the EX. Now over here on the door, you have my window controls, auto up down on my driver and passenger side, my window locks, door locks, mirror controls left and right in a pad, and then you'll notice I do have my trunk button right here to pop it open. So let's hop down in this car, and we'll go over some features in the car. All right. So over here on the left side, I'll point out a couple buttons. The first one is road departure mitigation. This is part of my Honda Sensing suite. So that's one of the first features I want to point out in that suite. What it is if this green LED is on, and you can turn it on and off anytime, if I start to drive off the shoulder of the road, it'll give me an audible alert, and then it will actually shake the wheel to be like, hey, wake up, pay attention. So if you're taking a long road trip, maybe this is something you want to make sure is on for sure. Now above that is collision mitigation braking, also part of the Honda Sensing suite. If it's looking like I'm going to rear end another car, first that car will give me an audible alert, and it will alert me in the dash up here, and then it will actually start to apply the brakes to prevent this accident. Always on unless you press and hold this to turn it off, and you got to press it for a couple seconds. So you're not going to accidentally get in and bump this to turn it off. So you can see the icon up there in orange that would turn on and off when it's on. Now, vehicle stability assist is the same way. It's always on. You got to press and hold it for a couple seconds to turn it off. This is set up to where if I go into a skid, it'll transfer power to whichever wheel is getting better traction to help correct for that skid. Only time you'd want to turn this off is maybe if you were stuck in the mud and you were trying to spin your tires while they were pulling or pushing you out. That would be the only reason I can think of. So moving over to the steering wheel of the car. So I'm going to start you on the left side, and we'll go through that, and then we'll kind of move from there. So on the left side, the first thing I want to point out is your Bluetooth controls. So to answer a call, to hang up a call or go back, and then my voice command button. So that's what's going on from that standpoint. And the voice command button will also work with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And I'll explain more about that in just a second. Now, next up is this I button, the information button. You'll notice there's like several menus you can see right there. So when I press that button, what's going to happen up here is you're going to see it toggle between menus. So the first one that it pulled up was a tripometer. So range, 311 miles on this tank of gas. Average, that's the the miles per gallon I got on the last trip, probably from the detail department back here or something. And then you can see down below I have my temperature and the miles on the car, 9. So I press it again, I can get over to my maintenance stuff. So this will be oil life. When that gets down to 15%, it will give you an alert here in the dash. And then it'll actually give you a code, A1, B1, A2, B2. And that way you'll know, you can check in your manual and it'll let you know exactly what they're gonna tell you when you get to the dealership as far as what they're gonna recommend to you. So that way if you're concerned about not knowing, hey, are they trying to upsell me a bunch of stuff or anything like that, know that you have this available to you. If I press that button again, I can jump over to audio, which right now I have FM set up right now. If I want to like jump to AM or to USB or to Bluetooth or anything else, all I have to do is press up on the arrow button right here. And when I do so, you'll see it jump between these. So it's only gonna jump between FM and AM right now because that's the only two things I have hooked up. But if you had your USB hooked up, if you had Bluetooth running, it would connect through those. I know I mentioned XM, I think. XM is actually in your EX model, so if you want XM, you need to jump up a level of this car, but it'll toggle between any of your audio options that you do have. And if you wanna know what those audio options are, I'll jump over here. These are all the options for the car. FM, AM, USB, iPod. You can plug anything into the USB down here and play off of it. You do have Bluetooth, Pandora compatibility, and then you do have access to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto right here. So if you connect up your phone to the USB that I just showed you right down here, you can pull that up, and then you have access to a lot of things: Spotify, Pandora, iHeartMedia Radio. There's several different apps that you can look up, and they continue to add them. So I'd say you might want to check to see if you're looking for something specific. You'll also have access to your navigation off your phone. So if you're an Android-based user, you have Google Maps and Waze. If you're a Apple user, same thing. You now have access to Google Maps and Waze and Apple Maps, which I know everyone loves. I know, nobody loves Apple Maps. So yeah, that's the I button that you can toggle through and see all your menus. And then kilometers an hour, I don't need to explain that too much. So that's just how that works. And then you have the pad to work through. I could toggle this way too if I wanted to use the arrows. So it just depends on how you want to do it. There's a lot of different ways. My volume controls are right here. Now moving over to the right side, some additional Honda sensing features that I was mentioning earlier. So this is the rest of that suite. So if the main button is on, you'll see ACC and LKS up there. That stands for Adaptive Cruise Control, and the other one stands for Lane Keep Assist. Now, Lane Keep Assist is using this button right here. So if I press that button, you'll see some dotted lines come on there. So they're flashing at me right now. Once I'm going over 45 miles an hour, 45 to 90 is your range, it will use a camera up in this black box right here to detect the lines on the road. Now, if you start to drift out of your lane, it'll correct for you and keep you centered in your lane. So it's just to prevent you from accidentally drifting into another car. If you spilled your coffee, your kid was doing something crazy, your dog jumped on you, Lord forbid you were texting and driving, that kind of thing. So that's what this is for. Now, Adaptive Cruise Control, once I get up to my speed I want to set, I would press set, where it says ACC off right there because I'm not wearing my seatbelt. That's where it would show you your speed now. And then I can set the distance it'll keep between me and the car in front of me using this button. So when I press that, you'll see boxes appear. The more boxes, the more space it's going to keep between me and the car in front of me. So if I set my speed to 65, the guy in front of me is going 70, but then slows down to 50, as opposed to having to turn off and then resume, that kind of thing with a standard cruise control. This will keep my designated spacing that I picked, slow down the car, and then when I get out from behind him where he speeds back up, it'll take me back up to the speed I originally set. Now, if you want this to just be a standard cruise control, no big deal. Press and hold this button right here. You'll see cruise mode pop on, and now you're just using it as a standard cruise control. So set, cancel, resume. And to switch back, press that button again, and now it's back to ACC mode, okay? This car does have paddle shifter, so I'll point that out. It is a Civic Sport, so they are giving you a little bit more control over the shifting points in the car. So that's exactly what it'll do. It's an automatic. It'll still adjust on its own, but you have a little bit more control. Now moving over to the left side, it does come with auto on-off headlights, and then I do have fog lights, so that's kind of nice to know that you have on this vehicle. And then moving to the other side, I do have my controls as far as my windshield wipers pull down, and it'll get them rocking and rolling for you. So that's how that works. All right, so moving over to the touchscreen. So on the touchscreen, I just want to point out a couple things here. First, the home button is where I'm at. So audio-wise, I just touched that a second ago and went to the source button to show you all your audio options. So a quick way to jump around through those. Next, info, this is where I can get to my tripometer information. So that same information I had pulled up a second ago, which let me get it pulled up here again, and that way you can see it. I'm going to select that button right there. Range 311, average miles 10.8, that kind of thing. So I can see range right down here, and then probably the trip before that or after it from me moving the car about 5 seconds before this video started. So that's what's going on from this screen. Now jumping out of that, I'm going to show you Honda Link right here. Honda Link is an app you can download. and you can set up an account, and it'll give you maintenance reminders, recall notices, things like that. Depending on the level of a car, and this goes for all Hondas, you can search any Honda on there and the trim level. You might have access to certain things like being able to remote start the car from your phone, or being able to lock the doors from your phone. So depending on which car, if you end up looking at an Accord or something else, this particular model isn't going to have those. It's just going to have access to maintenance reminders, recall notices, that sort of thing. But just in case you want to look into that a little bit more. Now your phone button, if you've never connected a phone to Bluetooth, how you would do so, you can touch it for the first time and it'll walk you through the prompts. Now if you've already done that and you need to add a secondary phone, you would want to go to settings. From here we're going to go to Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Then we want to go to the device list because we want to add something to that list. And then add Bluetooth device, select that, and then you're back to, hey, start searching for this with your Bluetooth on. So that's how that function works. So real quick, I'm going to jump over to the backup camera. If I pull the backup camera on, you'll see this screen pull up right there. And I've got 3 different views, so let's back this car up. 1, because I want to show you how this works, and 2, because I have another car trying to get by me. So that's, you can see I have it at a wide angle. I can switch over to just a standard backup camera. And then when I start to get close to something such as a curb, a tree, another car, I can flip over to this third view and see exactly where I'm at. So that's how the backup camera works, right? So 3 different views that I have to choose from with your guidelines and everything. So hopefully that helps with that. All right, so let's jump back into something else. Settings, I want to point out a couple things. The first would be under vehicle. This is where you can get to like door locks, windows, walkway auto lock features, things like that. So if you go to door and window, you can affect your door lock. So the first one, auto door lock, the car is set to when you hit 10 miles an hour, it'll automatically lock the doors. If you wanted to change that, this is where you would do so. Unlocking the door. So when you open your driver's side door, it's then going to unlock the remaining doors of the car. If you wanted to change that, these are your options and where you could do so. Now the last one is going to be, I believe, under key, what is it? Key and remote, it's right down here at the bottom. Walkway auto lock. So if I turn this on, what I have just done, because the default is to be off. If I turn it on, now whenever I get outside of 10 feet from my car, it will automatically lock the doors for me. So if you get halfway into the grocery store and you're concerned that you don't know if you locked your doors, turn this feature on, you'll never have to worry about it. So that's just a couple of the settings in here that you can get to. And to get to those, start you from the home screen, you go to settings, hit the wrong button because I'm staring at my phone. Go to settings and then you'd select vehicle, and this is where all those options were, okay? Down below that is smartphone connection. This is where you can connect up your phone to the USB that's running right here. And it'll give you access to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which I mentioned earlier. Being able to access your navigation, your music, your messages. There's plenty of different stuff. So check that out. It's definitely cool and definitely worth the money in my personal opinion. Now your climate control, I can adjust down here. And you can see it says low right here, so I can adjust my temperature using this knob and then how much air from here. If I want to pull more up, I can do it on the screen if I like. Or I can access a lot of that same stuff from these buttons right down here. So it's just how to do it 2 different ways, right? Now, 3 buttons down here are probably the most foreign ones to most of my customers. So I just want to explain what those are. And to do so, I'm going to put my seatbelt on because the first one I'm going to go over is brake hold right there. And you got to have your seatbelt on for this feature to work. So if I have the brake hold button on, you're going to see it pop on up there and say brake hold. And then over here, you're going to see brake hold right there. Now I can shift the car into drive. So when the car is in drive, I can now release my foot from the brake pedal, which I'll point out are aluminum sport pedals, and the car isn't moving. This is set up to where if I'm in stop and go traffic and I keep having to move up 10 feet, hold my foot on the brake, move up 10 feet, hold the brake. This is set up to help eliminate some of that and just allow you to relax a little bit more. So it's a convenience feature, but it is helpful, especially if you live in a place where there's a lot of traffic. So just keep that in mind. That's what the brake hold button is. Now, if you're going to use this at the bank drive-thru or at a fast food drive-thru, remember you have to have your seatbelt on for this function to work. If you take your seatbelt off while this function is on, it'll just shift. It'll turn on the emergency brake to hold it to assume that maybe something's going on. So just keep that in mind. Shift it back to park and point out your parking brake. It's electronic, so to use it, I put my foot on the brake, I lift up on the trigger and it sets. You'll see the red LED to let you know it's on, and then it'll actually say brake right down there in the bottom corner. To release it, put my foot on the brake, press down on the trigger, and it releases it. Now the next one is the econ button. If I turn that button on, you'll see a green leaf up there in the top left corner. How this works is It will shut down some of the electrical systems in the front of the car, affecting things like your AC unit and your accelerator. So it's going to dim those items, meaning they're not going to work as effective, but improve gas mileage of the car. So it's a give and take system to help you out. So if you're on a long road trip, this is maybe a button you want to use. Or if you're a conservative driver, maybe you turn this on and you never know the difference. If you're a little bit more heavy-footed or pedal to the metal kind of person, maybe you turn this on and off as you go. So just something to keep in mind and something to use as far as saving us the gas mileage. Another thing I'll point out related to gas mileage is up here, you'll notice there's these white bars up at the top. Those will turn green or they'll fade out to white when you're driving. If it's lit up green, it means the way you're driving is going to affect your gas mileage in a positive way. When they fade back out to white, it's letting you know it's not going to affect it in a positive way. So just kind of an interactive way to view your driving. So just another thing to keep in mind. So this car does not have a moonroof in it, so I won't point that out. You would need to go up to the EX model to get that. And I have an EX model video in case you want to know kind of, hey, what else could I be getting? Like heated seats, moonroof, some of the additional features, the Honda lane watch camera off the right side, if you want to know what else you can get by moving up a model. Other than that, this is the Honda Civic Sport. You can see it does come with a black interior. I'll give you a quick rundown of the seat so you can see it does have like a checkered print. So it's a little bit sportier looking on the interior with the cloth and leather sides. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can always comment on the YouTube video. You can always reach me at 512-443-4300 and ask for Justin. Or you can always email me, the letter J, and then Fuller, that's J, and then Fuller at howdyhonda.com. Thank you much.